I will never set foot in an abandoned hospital again after what happened that night. The chill still lingers. Even now, years later, the memory has teeth. Only 3 of us remain. The silence is a heavy thing, a constant reminder of what we lost in that forsaken place. It started with a whisper, a dare passed between friends on a night thick with possibility. Michael's voice cut through the darkness. "Last one, there's a rotten egg." We ran, laughter echoing, nerves hidden beneath bravado. The rules were simple: hide and seek inside the abandoned hospital's shadowed halls. But as we crossed the threshold, something unspoken lingered in the air. None of us realized the real game had already begun. After that night, none of us dared to speak about what happened. There was something unspoken, something that lingered in the air, heavy and cold. Michael changed, in ways we couldn't quite explain. Each of us left with a secret, and a shadow that would never quite let go. Something was different in the air that evening, heavy, expectant, as if the world itself was holding its breath. We found ourselves beneath the old oak, 6 friends, drawn by memories we couldn't quite name. Above us, the hospital watched in silence, its windows dark, its secrets hidden. It felt as though it was waiting for us, and without a word, we stepped closer. Shadows stretched across the hospital's entrance as we drew near, our laughter fading into uneasy silence. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Michael's voice, barely above a whisper, "Let's do this." Inside, the air pressed in around us. The silence was thick, as if the building itself was holding its breath. What had started as a simple game now felt like something else entirely. The rules were simple. That's what Michael said. 100 seconds, no hiding outside, no chickening out. Sarah's trembling hand drew the short straw. As she began to count, we slipped away, each step echoing into the unknown. None of us realized what we'd just set in motion. Each step deeper into the hospital's winding corridors felt heavier. The air was thick, almost watching. No laughter echoed, no footsteps followed, just the faint, steady drip of water somewhere unseen. Something was different now. We weren't alone, but I couldn't say why. The air seemed to shift, colder, heavier. Every step echoed, swallowed by a silence that felt alive. Was it my imagination, or did something move behind the walls? I hesitated, heart pounding, drawn forward by a whisper I couldn't quite hear. The silence pressed in as I edged forward, every step echoing down the empty corridor. Suddenly a shape emerged from the shadows. Emily, trembling, her face drained of colour. She whispered, barely audible, "Michael's gone, he was right behind me." And then, nothing. Something in the hospital had shifted. We weren't sure who would be next. Something shifted in the air. Our game of hide and seek was no longer just a game. The corridors seemed to close in, shadows stretching longer, darker. We stumbled upon John and David, silent and unmoving, their faces pale, eyes wide with something we couldn't name. Emily and I exchanged a glance, an unspoken question hanging between us. Was it just us now, or was something else playing too? The hospital felt alive, watching, waiting. We knew we had to move before whatever was lurking decided it was our turn. And then faintly, the laughter of children echoed behind us, soft, chilling, impossible to ignore. Some games, we realized, are never truly over. Something shifted in the air, so slight at first it was almost easy to ignore. A weight settled over us, invisible but undeniable, making each breath a little harder. The air grew colder, prickling my skin, as if the building itself exhaled a warning. The hospital's silence deepened, broken only by the flicker of failing lights and distant echoes. Shadows seemed to move on their own, shapes twisting in the corners of our eyes. Emily's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes darting to every shadow. "We should go," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. But something told me the hospital wasn't ready to let us leave. It felt as if we'd wandered into a web, each step drawing us deeper into its centre. We moved faster, our footsteps echoing, too loud, too desperate. Then a scream shattered the silence, sharp, chilling and close. Sarah's voice, raw, terrified, echoed through the halls, making my heart race. "Sarah!" I called out, my own voice trembling, swallowed by the darkness. The echo of Sarah's screams lingered somewhere ahead, each one fainter than the last. We moved forward, hearts thudding, unsure if we wanted to find her or if we should turn back. Every step drew us deeper into the hospital's maze, the darkness pressing in, swallowing the light behind us. The air shifted, colder, heavier. A sickly scent of rot crept into our lungs, making each breath a struggle. The game was gone. We weren't hiding anymore. We were running, but from what we couldn't yet say. At last we stumbled into the old hospital chapel, a place that felt untouched, yet somehow more haunted than the rest. Moonlight filtered through shattered stained glass, painting the dust with strange, shifting colours. In the farthest corner we saw her, Sarah, or what we thought was Sarah, curled up, trembling, her face hidden in shadow. The silence was broken only by a low, unnatural sound, something between a whisper and a growl, echoing from her direction. We hesitated. The voice that came from her lips was not the one we remembered. It was deeper, older, and filled with something we couldn't name. "Sarah?" I managed, barely above a whisper, my hand reaching out uncertain. Slowly, she turned. The movement was wrong. Jerky, unnatural. My breath caught. Her eyes met mine, black, endless, swallowing the last of the light. I felt a chill run through me. Her lips twisted into a smile that didn't belong to her, revealing teeth that looked far too sharp. When she spoke, her words crawled across my skin, cold and electric. "Run!" she hissed, her voice barely human. "Run and hide!" But even as we backed away, her words lingered. "You can't hide forever. He will find you. He finds everyone." Something in the air shifted, and we knew, without a word, that we had to run. Sarah's laughter echoed behind us, chilling and strange, as we turned and fled into the darkness. We ran, hearts pounding, barely daring to look back, the hospital swallowing our footsteps. The corridors twisted and turned, each one more unfamiliar than the last, as if the building itself wanted us lost. Suddenly, we burst through a door and stumbled into a small, forgotten operating theatre. The moonlight caught on scattered surgical instruments, their edges glinting coldly on a rusty trolley. Overhead, a single bare bulb swung gently, its flickering light making the shadows dance across the stained floor. We paused, breathless, the silence pressing in. My eyes drifted to the far end of the room. There, high on the wall, was a small, grimy window, barely catching the moonlight. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, but then a pale shape pressed against the glass, a face, twisted in a silent scream. Its eyes glowed red, burning through the darkness, locking onto mine with a force that made me freeze. I stumbled back, unable to tear my gaze away. A scream caught in my throat. Emily clutched my arm, her eyes wide, searching my face for answers. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, trembling with fear. I couldn't answer. All I could do was point, my hand shaking as the face in the window stared back at us, waiting. For a fleeting moment, a face appeared in the window, gone before I could be sure it was ever there. Only the rain and the darkness remained, whispering secrets I couldn't quite hear. But that image lingered, haunting the edges of my mind. It was a warning, or maybe a memory, that we were not alone in this place. Something watched us from the shadows, ancient, patient, and hungry for fear. Its presence pressed in, silent but unmistakable. Emily's voice broke the silence, barely more than a whisper. "We have to get out of here." We searched for a way out, every shadow a possible escape or a trap. But hope was fading. I could hear it in her voice, feel it in the tremble of my own hands. The hospital was a maze, and we were caught in its web, each turn leading us deeper, not out. It felt as if the building itself was alive, watching, waiting, tightening its grip with every step. We ran, hearts pounding, lungs burning, but the corridors only twisted further, drawing us in. The hallways stretched on, warping and shifting, as if the hospital itself was leading us somewhere we didn't want to go. The air thickened, heavy with rot and something older, something that seemed to whisper my name from the darkness. Suddenly, a deafening crash behind us. The corridor caved in, sealing our only escape. The darkness pressed closer, the silence growing heavier, as if the hospital itself was swallowing us whole. Now it was just Emily and me, two left standing, facing the unknown together, with only the darkness for company. The dust hung heavy, swirling in the stale air. Every breath felt thick, every sound muffled. Emily and I pressed ourselves against the icy wall, the collapsed ceiling sealing us in. Somewhere above, something shifted. Through the haze, a faint glimmer appeared at the end of the corridor. A door, one I was certain hadn't been there before. My heart pounded. I reached for Emily's hand, gripping it tight. Was this our way out, or just another trick of the shadows? We moved, slow at first, then desperate, drawn to the light, not knowing what waited beyond. The night swallowed us as we stumbled outside. Behind us the hospital loomed, secrets still hidden in its shadows. Some stories are never told, not fully. Ours was one of them. We kept silent, even when the memories pressed at the edges of our minds. Not to each other, not to anyone. There were things we couldn't bring ourselves to say. The images lingered, raw and unyielding. Sometimes even a whisper felt like it might summon something best left forgotten. But the marks remained, silent, invisible, but always there. Michael, John and David, names that faded from conversations but not from our thoughts. The police came and went, their questions echoing in the empty halls. The hospital, though, kept its secrets. Officially, it was an accident. Lost in the woods, they said. Case closed. But Emily and I exchanged glances that said otherwise. We remembered the chill, the way the darkness seemed to move and breathe. Something was taken from us that night, something we could never name. Maybe it was innocence, or maybe it was the comfort of believing shadows were harmless. Whatever it was, it set us apart, marked us in ways no one else could see. Time moved forward, as it always does. But for us, life was never quite the same. We carried the weight of that night step after step, year after year. Even laughter, once so bright, became a reminder, echoing with something lost. Every darkened room, every creak in the night, hinted at things unseen. And high above the town, The hospital stood, watching, waiting, a silent witness to the night everything changed. When the days grow short and the shadows stretch across my walls, something stirs in the quiet. Sometimes, in the stillness, I see the faces of my friends, etched with fear, flickering at the edge of sleep. The silence of those hospital corridors never truly left me. It lingers, a faint echo just out of reach. There's always been a pull, something in the darkness that calls quietly, persistently. Over time, that call has only grown stronger. It's subtle, like a song you can almost hear. The silence of those who vanished and the memories I try to forget press in around me. I tell this story not for comfort, but as a quiet warning, one I hope you'll hear. There are places where the line between reality and nightmare grows thin, so thin you might not notice until it's too late. Places like the old hospital on the hill, waiting in the fog. If you ever feel that strange urge to step inside, pause, listen, and turn back before the shadows notice you, because the darkness is patient, it never forgets, and it's always listening. If you crave more mysteries and chilling tales, subscribe now. There's always another secret waiting in the shadows. Will you be the first to find it?